Max Holloway is one of the greatest fighters in UFC history, but when it comes to Dustin Poirier, he just can't figure him out. He's lost to Poirier twice now, with the same issues reappearing in the first and second fights. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the problems that Holloway just can't seem to solve, and why it could cost him big time at UFC 318. And this is just part one of my video series ahead of this main event, so please do subscribe as I'll be taking a look at this fight from every angle. Comment below who you think wins. Anyway, let's get straight into it. And the first point that I want to raise is that Max Holloway's arms are just too short to deal with Dustin Poirier. Now, this might not seem like a massive problem, but Dustin Poirier does have a 3-inch reach advantage against Max Holloway. And both of these guys are extremely skilled boxers, but 3 inches at this level makes a big difference. And the reason why these 3 inches will make such a big difference is because of the style of both fighters. They're both boxers, and I've got a video clip we're going to take a quick look at shortly that helps explain this point. But both fighters like fully extending on their punches, hitting their target with really good technique. So 3 inches in the lightweight division does make a big difference. You have to think in the fight between Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje, both guys have a 70-inch reach, and Max Holloway does have the advantage when it comes to the boxing skill set. Justin Gaethje, he's very powerful, got some nice hooks, but he's fairly one-dimensional when it comes to his striking. Max Holloway is able to mix it up a lot more, but so's Dustin Poirier. So the fact that Dustin Poirier is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage on Max Holloway could make a huge difference in this fight. As you can see in this sequence from their second fight here, because of Max Holloway's reach disadvantage here, he's really having to lean in and lunge in when he throws his hands. And this allows a very skilled boxer like Dustin Poirier, who's very good on the counter, the ability to do a really nice pull counter here. Because Max Holloway has to reach, he has to outstretch himself because he has that reach disadvantage. He leaves himself really vulnerable to the counters. And as you can see, Max Holloway is able to piece him up there with a nice left hook. And he brings a lovely right uppercut through the middle as well. So that's all because Max Holloway was out of shape. He was bent out of shape because he has an inferior reach advantage. Now, I'm sure I know what a lot of you are thinking. 3 inches isn't all that much. But when it comes to two very skilled boxers, 3 inches at this weight class makes a massive difference. And I feel as though a reach disadvantage is something that has plagued Holloway in the past. Look, the guy in recent years has only lost to elite level fighters, but you've got to think his early career struggles against Conor McGregor, and even more recently in a win that he had against Yair Rodriguez. Rodriguez uses his reach really well, whether it's his legs or his long arms. And Max Holloway, a lot of people thought he would run away easily with that fight, but it was a lot more competitive than people thought because of Yair Rodriguez's superior reach. So I hope that I've won a few people over to my side here, but I do think the 3-inch reach advantage for Poirier will make a massive difference in this fight. It made a huge difference in the first and second fights, just because it affects every aspect of your boxing, whether it's your entries, your range, your angles that you come in at. Having a reach advantage is a huge advantage when two strikers come up against each other. Moving on to another problem that Max Holloway has against Dustin Poirier. We all know how Max Holloway likes to win fights. He likes to put volume on people, grind them down, war of attrition, putting his long combinations together, and eventually either getting his opponent out of there or winning a decisive victory after 5 rounds. However, that's not the best game plan to use against Dustin Poirier, because this guy was built for these war of attritions. I go back to the Dan Hooker fight for a prime example of a fighter dealing with volume and attrition against his opponent. Dan Hooker and Dustin Poirier stood in the phone booth for every single round, scrapping it out, and Dustin Poirier showed huge heart in that and came away with a victory. That fight will have taken years off both guys' fighting career. Look, this might be the reason why this is Dustin Poirier's last fight, but it still showed unbelievable heart, unbelievable grit from Dustin Poirier. There's no denying that Max Holloway's volume is just insane. The amount of punches that he can get off in that fight against Calvin Kattar, where he was talking to DC and the commentary team and just unloading these combinations. And this is a fantastic signature weapon, and it would break so many fighters, but it's not going to break Dustin Poirier. Someone who's used to dealing with come forward heavy hitters like Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Dan Hooker. One of Dustin Poirier's best best skill sets is the fact that he's able to absorb a load of damage. He's got an incredible chin. He'll make little adjustments, then he'll hurt you. Just think about the way that he finished Conor McGregor when he starts landing his hands on you, hurting you, in a similar manner to the way that he did it in the second fight against Max Holloway. Even though he was unable to crack Holloway's legendary chin, he still managed to hurt Holloway, start moving downhill, and he's so accurate with these heavy punches. Really, on paper, it's just a nightmare matchup for Max Holloway. And the second problem is that I just don't think volume punching is the way to get rid of Dustin Poirier. We've seen him knocked out with big shots. We've seen him submitted. We don't really see him worn down and beaten out of there. And I'm not sure Max Holloway is the guy who's going to do it. Moving on to the third problem that I have identified for Max Holloway heading into this trilogy fight, and that's the psychological demons that could be haunting him. Now, I've seen Max Holloway following losses before. He seems to be really stoic. He says it is what it is. He accepts defeat, moves on, improves, and then gets back out there. So I've no doubt that the guy's extremely strong-minded. He's got a good team around him who'll really be supporting him psychologically. However, the guy is still human. So there's a couple of psychological factors that could play a part here. The first, obviously, being the fact that Dustin Poirier is already 2-0 against Max Holloway. So Poirier will have the psychological edge. He's got the experience of having his hand raised against Max Holloway twice, something that Holloway has never been able to do against Dustin Poirier. And let's face it, history does matter a lot. Max Holloway can think back to the last time that he was 2-0 against a fighter in Alexander Volkanovski. And that trilogy fight turned out to be Volkanovski's greatest win against Max Holloway. So these things, even if it's just a little thought in the back of Max Holloway's head as he's making a ring walk, it could make a big difference in this fight. The second psychological factor, which could potentially be the biggest, is how much of an impact the knockout from Ilia Topuria has had on Max Holloway's fighting style, his mindset, and all the rest. We've seen it before so many times that fighters take a bad knockout and then they're never the same fighter afterwards. Whether they're chinny or gun shy, their fighting style that got them to the very top, that won them titles, just seems to leave them. Max Holloway's style is fairly risky. He likes to get in your face. He doesn't really move his head all that much unless he's really trying to show some slick boxing. Most of the time, his head is there to be hit. He'll take a shot to land one back. And that just can't play out against Ilia Topuria, who knocked him out cleanly the first time we'd ever seen that, shocking the MMA world. But does this change the style of Max Holloway? Will he be less aggressive? Will his chin not look quite as granite-like? Will it be more vulnerable after taking that knockout blow from Ilia Topuria? We know that Dustin Poirier does hit very hard, maybe not quite as hard as Topuria, but he can drop people, he can hurt people. Could Ilia Topuria have softened up Holloway's chin enough for Dustin Poirier to finish the job with relative ease? We just don't know that yet. There's a lot of unanswered questions, particularly from a psychological perspective heading into this fight. And as we move on to the fourth problem that I have identified for Max Holloway, I don't want it all to be doom and gloom. I will be making a video on some of Dustin Poirier's weaknesses and how Max Holloway can exploit them later on this week. But I do want to talk about the strength disparity that I think might be on show in this fight. And look, you might argue that we saw Max Holloway do a full camp at lightweight and he looked really strong and good against Justin Gaethje, beating him and then finishing him in that last 10 seconds. But really, I don't think that strength actually played so much of a factor in that fight. Couple that with the fact that Max Holloway was able to break Justin Gaethje's nose so early on, which did affect Gaethje's ability to close that distance, rush in, because he was really compromised from early on. But if you look in the second fight here, you can probably see what I'm about to demonstrate with this clip. The strength of Dustin Poirier against Max Holloway is just extremely noticeable, particularly when it comes to the clinch. You see this a lot from Charles Oliveira, getting that tie grip there, and Dustin Poirier is able to land some really nice, clean knees, heavy knees in the clinch. And against a cardio machine like Max Holloway, this is such a good idea because it'll just tire him out a bit. But you can see there, even with one hand, Holloway's really struggling there. Dustin Poirier just misses with that right hook, so he goes back to the clinch. But really, he just looks so much stronger than Max Holloway. Holloway's not really able to throw in the clinch because all he's worried about is trying to get Poirier off him. But that's really difficult, and he lands a really nice right hand, a really nice short right hand to the body in that clinch. This kind of stuff, particularly early on, with 2 minutes 22 into the first round, can really wear on you. And I know that Dustin Poirier has fantastic cardio as well, but he'll know that Max Holloway is probably the fresher, fitter guy, so he'll want to wear on that gas tank early on. And one way that he can definitely do that is by using his strength and natural size advantage to wear on Holloway early on, work at that body, and just try and grind him down. Because you know that Max Holloway, if you've not slowed him down, he's just going to keep coming and keep coming for 5 rounds. So like Dustin Poirier did in the second fight, using his natural size advantage would be another problem, another massive problem for Holloway to overcome, and not something that we saw him overcome in the first or second fights. So there it is, 4 of the problems that Max Holloway will have to overcome to get his hand raised against Dustin Poirier. And before we go, I am going to tease you with one of the problems I've identified of Dustin Poirier's heading into this fight. Like I said, I'll be doing a full video on that later this week. But the thing about Dustin Poirier that I noticed is his loss and wins in recent years. His losses only came against the very best fighters in the lightweight division, the champions. That was until the last fight, his knockout loss against Justin Gaethje. Now, I know that he did bounce back after that and beat Benoit Saint-Denis, but even so, that loss against Justin Gaethje, someone who's only held the interim title and even probably was past his best at the time they fought, should give Max Holloway a lot of confidence. Perhaps this is a fighter truly on the decline. Is he getting out of the game a little bit too late? Is Max Holloway going to claw one back? We'll find out on Saturday. But anyway, as a quick recap of the 4 problems Max Holloway has against Dustin Poirier, the first one is that I just think his arms are too short. Such an obvious statement, but I think it's going to be such a massive problem in this fight. Secondly, the fact that Max Holloway's best weapon is his insane volume. He's a volume guy, a cardio guy, and there's no one better at surviving wars of attrition than Dustin Poirier. Thirdly, we spoke about the psychological demons that might be impacting Max Holloway. They are very real. Not only being 2-0 down to Dustin Poirier, but also coming off a knockout loss, a bad knockout loss against Ilia Topuria. Then finally, we talk about the natural size and strength advantage. That definitely leans towards Poirier, and even though having a full fight camp to bulk up, I still think that Poirier will have a massive strength advantage. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one.